This is part 3 of our episode on the fracturing of the Democratic Party, the conflict of party politics and racial identity, and how we can find one solidified candidate to embrace all the people they're supposed to represent. One moment, please, while I get the tape rolling.
For women's rights,
you walk down a street with a bunch of other people. That's really not that hard to do.
Actually,
and I was like 17 years old.
The Polish neighborhoods in Milwaukee used to throw sticks and rocks at black people, so it was more than marching. They were beaten. They got the shit beat out of them.
Yeah, I got a couple of kids while I'm riding my bike.
Me into praising marchers. You know what? I've tried to get to work with people standing in the road before. I could care less.
That was just a segment in my life. That's all I was expressing the story. But
the reason I say that is because I had a good conversation with a Bernie supporter the other night. He ended up changing his political opinion based on information I gave him about Bernie. But that was one of his things that he kept bringing up. He marched for civil rights. I'm like, oh really? Good whoop. Here's the things that you're going to do to the country if he wins. If you vote and you participate in putting him in the White House, here's what you can expect. And he actually changed his vote and thanked me for the information. It was a good conversation that I had with him. It's a definite no for Biden. It's a definite no for Bernie now, and it's a maybe for Trump now. So I think I did my part. At least I educated him and got him away from just the headline talking points.
Well, the thing is that Bernie is not perfect. Bernie is an independent. He's an independent democratic socialist. So he is not a true Democrat. And that's what people don't understand. Just like Donald Trump is not a true Republican. He was a Democrat all his life.
That's a good point, Don, actually.
I make always good points. That's the whole point, is that I'm not talking just to talk. I'm talking to make people think. And the thing is that in this particular Democratic primary, the big vote that is going to take whoever wins over the top is going to be the black vote, and specifically the black female vote, because they are starting to get sort of the colloquial is woke.
Okay, I have a question. Don, can you let somebody else? You're saying great things, but I have a question. Why is the upward momentum of Bernie the way that he was provocative in 2016? Why has it fizzled out so fast in 2020? I want Suzette to take the question.
Well, I think that the fact that when the election basically was taken from him to give to the Queen, Hillary, for the nomination, because she was already predetermined to win, he gladly handed it over. There was no fuss about it. He just said, okay, here you go, hand the reins over, and had the audacity to ask his supporters to vote for her. And so when you have that type of, it's like, well, we supported you, not her. We didn't want her. We wanted you. And you didn't even put up a fight. And then you asked us to vote and support her? No, we're sorry. I mean, we thought
one of our co-hosts, Albert, really never recovered from that.
Yeah.
He was a Bernie activist, and he never recovered from Bernie just going along with the party.
Right,
right. That was one of the things that I brought up to the guy I had the conversation with last week. Was his biggest thing was, he was like, we need somebody that stands up for the little guy, and he kept on telling me that he marched for civil rights and stuff. And I said, okay, take the 2016 election when you could argue that Bernie's two biggest supporters were murdered during that election. election, Sean Lucas and Seth Rich. Sean Lucas was the one that served the DNC with papers and died shortly after. Seth Rich was the one that leaked information from within the DNC. And I said, do you want to elect somebody who didn't even acknowledge his two biggest supporters' deaths when John Podesta sent an email basically admitting guilt for their murders, and he just took the money and gave the election to Hillary Clinton anyway? I was like, does that sound like a leader to you or a follower?
Or was it one of those ones that were released?
What?
I don't think Podesta admitted guilt. I think some of his emails got released and it exposed his guilt.
Yes. Yeah, it got released by Seth Rich. He didn't publicly admit guilt, but within the emails that got released, you could tell who was guilty. He said we need to make an example of a suspected leaker, whether or not they're guilty. And Seth Rich was shortly thereafter murdered. So Podesta knows, and he exposed himself. Actually, Seth Rich exposed him.
Well, what I'm upset about in this election, and by the way, Biden has sounded a little better lately, but I just don't like the fact that
you must not have heard what Biden said today, because there was some
inside coup d'etat the day before Super Tuesday, and Bernie was a formidable force, and now he's not, and the momentum of the race is just deflated into some bizarre twist. And
well, I heard that Robert made some phone calls the night before Super Tuesday and had asked the Democrats to get behind Joe Biden. And so they went lockstep and did what they were told, basically, and so they supported Bernie. But just real quick to get back to Trump, he wasn't a Democrat all his life. As a matter of fact, in 87 was when he first registered as a Republican. Then 2 years later, he registered as an independent. And then in 2000, he ran for president for the first time on the Reform platform. In 2001, he registered as a Democrat. But by 2009, had switched back to the Republican Party. And then in 2011, went to the Independent Party. And then he ran as a Republican. So I just wanted to correct that for the record.
It sounds more confusing than
he's a true independent. He just uses whatever party platform that he can muscle, which he did. He went in and destroyed the Republican Party because he wanted to win so he could fix things.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Suzette.
Since the 2016 election, the Republican Party had to be destroyed to let an independent through. Now you're watching the destruction of the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm. That's true in a sense.
No, it is true. The Democrats are doing it to themselves.
That's because
so
part of it is that thread line that I was talking about earlier with Heidi Heimkamp. Her new organization called One Country is to unite the rural voters because our country is so dispossessed. Like, how can just one candidate appeal to everybody?
Right. Well, what you're watching now is you're watching Joe Biden try to gather both sides of a two-party Democrat system that can't be gathered. And Bernie Sanders is trying to gather both sides of a two-party Democrat system that can't be gathered either. So
in the meantime, the middle one, the moderates are being left out.
Yeah, exactly. The union workers and stuff, like the old guard of the Democrat Party, the old meat and potatoes of the Democrat Party was the workers, the union people. Now they're all Trump supporters. So now they have to appeal to the fringe groups and the people who vote blue no matter what. And it's fracturing their party into the old, like, European worker-style party and the socialist, the radical socialist party, so it's going to be half and half, and there's never going to be a candidate that can get them back together. It's like, it's screwed up, it's split down the middle.
Yeah,
Well,
they don't
when
have a
Trump
message,
first
they don't
won,
have
the
anything
people
to go
accused
for.
the Republicans of being fractured.
The Republicans are actually united in a lot of ways for the first time that I've seen in a lifetime, and I'm 52 years old. But I think with the Democrat Party, I think that because they're just so hell-bent, the fringe that's left over right now, because the moderates are fleeing, whether they're fleeing to the Republican Party or just independent or nothing, they're fleeing from the Democrat Party. And so the fringe, all their goal is beat Donald Trump, and that's it. So they're going at each other saying, our candidate's more viable than your candidate, Bernie over Biden over Bernie. And, okay, so let's say you get either one, then what?
Right.
I haven't heard from you in a while. What's your take?
The Republicans are getting everybody that doesn't like socialism, that everybody's like, I don't like all this, and the identity politics, this identity politics is just another name for racism. And people that don't like the racism and they don't like the socialism on the far left, and they're like, man, we've got to stand against that. So there's a lot of, like, the Republicans are now gathering the conservatives and the libertarians and
You know what?
a lot of those people
the talking heads on, like, MSNBC and CNN, that's all they promote is identity politics.
Yeah.
And I saw a black co-host, a female. She tore Bill Clinton apart in his documentary on. He said he went with Monica Lewinsky out of stress, and she tore him apart, saying that his life isn't ruined, but Monica's is now ruined still because of Bill Clinton. But maybe he was just telling the truth. Maybe sexual tension got in the way of his judgment, but he can't even tell the truth without being vilified.
I'm glad Bill Clinton has you to stand in his corner whenever he talks.
I would have been Mary Ellen Lewinsky and stood in line. Now
It sounds like you still would.
Now John's gonna throw up.
And I'm just sitting here laughing because you would have been. But
John, you have a crush on Britney Spears, so you're not much better.
Oh, what's wrong with Britney? She's a nice little Republican country girl that will be another abortion. But Britney right now, that's as simple as that.
The show's going downhill already.
No, it's not. We're still on track. But I just wanted to say that I've been in this business and I've been a lobbyist for quite a long time, and these are observations that come from
capitalism, baby.
And you know what? Capitalism is not working.
What's going to end our republic? It's coming soon. I see it.
Capitalism is not. It's going against a morality of a spirit or God or whatever you want to call him. That it goes against that spirit, because that spirit in the Bible is of giving, of sharing, of taking care of your brother and your sister.
It's also about responsibility and watching out for your own self and family. It's not about.
I agree with Don.
Don't try and Bible-ize socialism.
But the thing is that ultimately, if you have to choose between family and some bauble, shiny bauble that's hanging in front of your face, and there are a vast number of people who value that bauble above and beyond your family, then that is what is going to tear us apart. Capitalism, if it was done to
it's greed and self-idolatry that's ruining this country right now.
Sure, and that's because it's crony capitalism. There's a huge divide of
But it comes like that. But it comes like that ultimately anyway, Suzette. It's going to be like that anyway, no matter.
there were things that were put in place to create this mess that we have now, this sick economy that's identified as capitalism, but it's crony capitalism. And there were regulations and there were policies that were put in place along the way, both Democrat and Republican. This country was sold out a long time ago. And when it was sold out under Bush, it was sold out under Clinton, to the Governors Association, to the Mayors Association, and the nail in the coffin was Barack Obama in 2011 when he signed an executive order. I can give you that executive order number so that you can look it up. And he gave the UN 16% control of our country.
Wow.
Barack Obama did?
Yep, let me get you that executive order so you can look it up yourself, because I want to back up what I say. It's in the Library of Congress.
Those figures were probably already at that point when he took office.
No,
because he took office from one of the worst recessions in the history of America. So those when you talk about 2008, 2010 numbers, you got to be very, very careful to attribute.
He was part of their plan, Don. Barack Obama came from the Bushes.
Here's the rundown.
Inevitably.
Okay, so in 1992, in June, George H.W. Bush, he attended the Rio Conference for the United Nations. At that time, it was the League of Nations, but they changed over to the United Nations. The document that he signed was non-binding, so basically it was just a piece of paper. But 1 year later, in 1993, June, William Jefferson Clinton signed into a binding agreement an executive order number 12852. The executive order was for the creation of the President's Council for Sustainable Development to begin implementation in federal agencies.
Who's doing that with their phone? Who's on speaker?
Somebody's phone is messed up. We're listening to that.
In 1997, June, the U.S. Conference of the Mayors creates the Joint Center for Sustainable Communities. In 2001, June, National Governors Association endorses Smart Growth, Advancing Statewide Sustainable Development. In 2011, June, Barack Obama signs Executive Order Number 13575, which created the Rural Communities Act. And what that did is that enabled the implementation of sustainable development in 16% of the U.S. So he told the U.S. or the UN, here you go, here's 16%, and those states are marked as Boston, Chicago. What was the other one? Oh, there was one more state, and basically those states are under UN control. But there's not much more. That part. It's still going. They still have control over that.
Executive Order 13575, right?
13575, yes. And the other one was 12852.
White House Rural Council.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. What a jerk. I hate that guy.
Who do you hate?
It has nothing to do with his race, Don.
And I just remember, he's only half white.
I don't care. He's a 100% Manchurian candidate for the cabal, and he came from the Bushes indirectly.
But they all are Ben. That's what I'm saying. All of these people are members, were members of the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, One World Order. All these people were members of that group, contracted members of that group. So there's nothing, the Republicans and Democrats are the same. That's what I'm trying to say.
By the way, Al Gore won the 2000 election.
The popular.
Yeah, and he lost that by getting ripped off. They stole that election.
He's one of them too. We've only had a selection up until now.
I disagree.
Oh, it was
He's one
stolen
of
from him,
them.
no doubt. But I mean, it was just, nobody did anything about it, just like they did with all the discrepancies and anomalies with the Clinton-Bernie thing. I didn't want Bernie for president. I would never vote for democratic socialism. But the fact remains is that we are supposed to have a fair election, free and fair election. And when you start undermining the people's choice, that's just wrong. And what the cards may fall is what the people want, is what the people want, and that's how it goes, But it was wrong, and they allowed it. Nobody said boo.
That's true,
Yeah.
and I just want to say for the people who started out with nothing, like Bill Clinton and Obama, they did make a name for themselves.
They were selected before the election, so it doesn't really
No,
matter.
part of it was their individual charisma.
Well,
And Bill
Obama
Clinton
never
still
had
has
a
a
job
good
in his
eye.
life.
And Bill Clinton let the boogeyman into our federal agencies with that executive order that he signed.
What was that?
I said Bill Clinton let the boogeyman into our federal agencies with that executive order that he signed, allowing the implementation of sustainable development in our federal agencies. So,
Well, sometimes I think international control is better.
What?
I'm a
What are
globalist.
you talking about?
It takes the power away from us, though.
I know. That's the trend line. That's the ultimate. That's the direction the world's going to go in eventually for worldwide
Jane,
management.
you have a political science degree. Are you kidding me right now?
I know.
Are you seriously? Did you just say that, or did I just dream this?
I said it.
Wow. Okay. Go first thing in the morning. Go take your political science degree and throw it back at your college's face.
I only
Please.
had to pay $3,600 a year for it. California has
Okay.
cheap tuition.
Okay.
Holy
Slap
moly.
yourself in the head first.
What was that?
I said slap
believe.
yourself in the head first. Because they
let
give
me
you a
just say
phony
something?
degree.
Let me just say something philosophically, okay? By the way,
Okay.
Don's call dropped. Philosophically, I believe that I'm kind of like Bernie in the sense that we should manage our global resources, like natural resources, and everybody come together and manage everything all at once and find peace and unity in the world. I'm not against a one world government.
But when you have different cultures crossing party lines or border lines, not everybody's going to agree. Think about the United States. We can't even agree, to disagree, and then we're going to somehow unite, and nobody's going to complain. That's how wars start.
Yeah.
Well, we can't.
Yeah,
Our country, we don't get along at all.
Right.
People
So,
are
Jane,
down to
what
it.
you
Like
want,
nobody's on the same page
is
in
no
America.
military.
There's your
You
proof.
want exactly what Mike wants then. Singapore Mike. He wants no national militaries. He only wants a global police force to enforce peace, which means that you'd have UN troops basically telling you how to live. And if you don't live like they tell you to, they shoot you. And that's a foreign power on our soil. That's exactly what you get with what you want, with foreign people telling you
I
to
was
be peaceful.
talking more about managing grain and
you gotta
global
think
resources.
about
I
the
wasn't talking about
implications of
policing.
world peace, Jane.
If I
You
may,
have to think about implications. How is it going to be enforced? What if I don't want to?
And who's going to enforce?
If people can choose to get along and they can have treaties and they can work together, that's different from having a world authority, because then you take away the choices of the many people. When you go to a restaurant, you get to enjoy the food because you get to choose what you want. You don't have one person deciding what everybody gets to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that bumper sticker, think globally, act locally? That's kind of, I guess, how I think now. Think globally, act locally.
Yeah.
But we
Then
can't
that's
do it yourself. We can't even get along in our own United States or within our states, locally. So to do it on a world scale is there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences in the ground.
Well, I agree with some of the. I can self-correct on some of the things I said. I wouldn't want a globalized police force.
Yeah,
I think
that's
what Trump is trying to do with reciprocal trade among the countries so that nobody's taking advantage of anybody and we're all, lifting each other up as far as trading equally. Prices may vary and whatnot, but without this country giving tariffs, this one not having tariffs, and, to do reciprocal trade would be somewhat like what you're describing as far as everybody getting along, sharing the resources, trading back and forth, without war. So that, I think,
I agree.
and that's what I think.
By the way, John, we haven't heard from you in a while. Are you taking notes? John Yoder. I think he's turning me into the Interpol.
No, I was just listening to the confessions of the one world order that Jane has been working for the last couple of years. That's all.
It's not a conspiracy. It's just a philosophy.
I know, and we've talked about this, how at the end of the world, the Antichrist will rule the world, the one world order, and we'll all have to take a number or a chip on our forehead or right hand and bow down to the beast. And this is what whether you know it or not, this is what you're working for.
No, I'm not for that kind of beast. I'm for I'm for humility, love, and compassion.
Well, that sounds nice, but the problem with that is
then don't vote.
people that are sheep are manipulated because
My friend Bob Kraft won't vote anymore.
Good.
What happens is people that are nice and innocent and have morals are being led by people who don't have morals, who aren't innocent, and who aren't being transparent. So what they're doing is they take your ideas and they go, we're all brothers and sisters, yay, and we're all going to share, and we're working together, and those that are, poor, the rich will help them, and it's all going to work out. And that's all just rhetoric. It's just words. It means nothing. And that's the problem with Bernie is he's just words. He doesn't live the life. He talks about it, but he was he went to Israel in his younger years and lived in a Jewish commune. And they kicked him out because he wouldn't do any work. He would just sit around and talk about ideas and the common worker, but he wouldn't do the work. So they booted him. And he started writing a bunch of goofy stuff about sexual fantasies and women getting molested and
oh, God.
His writings. I won't even get into it because these are what he wrote.
Please don't.
This isn't a 15-year-old boy, who just got a Hustler magazine. We're talking about a 30 to 35-year-old man writing. His older.
It sounds a lot like Beto O'Rourke's life.
Basically, and so the point is, these are just sheep herders. They're shepherds. They're leading sheep, and it's crowd control. And that's
John, you can go back into the cave. I've heard too much.
That's how come. Well, see, here's the problem: is that Dawn, and you're looking for leadership. And imagine I'm following you, right? I'm like, hey, I think Jane's got her head screwed on right. So this week it's what is it? Is it Cameron? Oh no, we're going to Beto. No, we're going to Tom Star. Oh no, go to Bernie.
I haven't been jumping around like Don. I stuck with one person who lost.
Elizabeth Warren. And the point is, you're going to have to dance.
There's nothing wrong with her changing her mind, I don't think, in my humble opinion.
I
It
never
just means that
changed
when
my
she gets
mind.
more-
I donated to Warren and I voted for her.
Okay,
So there.
let's just say you did though, even if you did, there's nothing wrong with that, because when you become more informed about another candidate, and you may not line up with the other one that you thought you were, so now you switch,
Your statement has value, but you have to realize, see, I'm a Trump supporter, so off the top, I want someone who wants borders. We're not going to give free, open borders, people can run in. We're not going to give away free health care, free college, free money, free houses, free reparations, free forgive your student loans. This is ridiculous.
But who are you preaching to
Cut.
right now? Because nobody...
You're not
That's
lying, but the way you said it, you said they love killing babies. That was an embellishment.
Well, they do. 1 million abortions. They love that.
No. Dude,
And that's
God.
because he doesn't have to. That's
I don't
what the
even know
people
what
who-
to name the show anymore.
Yeah, well, the thing is that the people who support people like him don't understand that he's not them. He doesn't care about them. They're only collateral damage, and he's going to use them all the way up into sainthood.
He's talking about Donald Trump.
Well,
It's
that's
been
what
months since the coronavirus started. It started in, November, December. So it's been months.
Yeah, the bottom line is that he's got the tanners and the makeup artists and everybody else that are all over his face. There's no... he doesn't have to touch his face. He doesn't even have to wash it. He doesn't have to wash his butt. And everybody else has to wash their butt. Not everybody.
He washes his own butt, John.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't have a nursemaid washing his ass.
He's got to have somebody in the bathroom at 3 o'clock in the morning editing his tweets, because we'll be like, OMG, TAF, DDY. That's how he probably talks. He doesn't know how to spell God. That's why I don't believe that all these so-called quasi-evangelists are behind him, because he hasn't read the Bible probably ever. He's coming around. He uses them. He uses the veterans. He uses all the I don't know what I would call them, lower class, for his bidding. That's what he does.
He actually had a religious upbringing, to tell you the truth. And the pastor that he went to church when he was a young boy, he had married him and his first wife before he was ever running for president. But he didn't
Norman
die, but they were
Vincent
close.
Peale. He used to listen to the sermons of Norman Vincent Peale, he was a pastor who believes in the power of positive thinking.
Yes. Thank you, Jane. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And here we've entered the world of Dawn, where once again...
Yes, and Norman Vincent Peale was off his rocker.
Donald Trump is a germaphobe. Donald Trump is a germaphobe. He doesn't run around without cleaning his hands. He doesn't like shaking people's hands. The only reason he shakes people's hands is because he said you can't be a politician without shaking people's hands. That's part of the gig. But before he ran for office, he did not like to shake people's hands, and he would greet them from a distance. Now, the interesting thing is...
If only he listened to Reverend Jesse Jackson's sermons a little bit more.
And what's that supposed to mean?
Because he's not a wood rocker, apparently.
I
Jesse
forgot
was-
to tell Ben that,
Jesse-
Ben, guess who I
Jesse
voted
was-
for in the primary in 1988?
Jesse was a such...
Hi, this is Jane, and our show really is about racial and religious perception, because now we're talking about Norman Vincent Peale, who was one of the very first people in America who believed in the power of positive thinking. And that enabled Donald Trump to believe that the sky is the limit. He could go as far as he wanted to go in life. And yes, sometimes Don says things that are a little crazy, like I'm pretty sure Donald Trump does wipe his own ass. But John has the belief system that the Democratic Party is inherently corrupt. No woman likes to have an abortion. But ultimately, we were talking about the struggle of race and identity politics and how each candidate can ultimately satisfy the voters, because a lot of voters don't have those types of issues. But it is a conversation that's going on in the news daily. Women empowerment, racial pride, and the lost white man is somewhere in between. Thank you for listening to segment 3 of our radio episode. We're at blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith. Thank you and have a great day.